Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to announce that Smooth Sack Summer is officially upon us. When you're playing in the summer sun, make sure you're groomed from pubes to bum. Thanks to our friends at Manscaped, you can make this season your smoothest yet. The Performance Package 5.0 Ultra is the ultimate bundle to keep your boys downstairs cool while looking hot. Join the 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with our exclusive offer. Get 20% off plus free shipping when you go to manscaped.com and use code THPN. Summertime and the trimmin' is easy. The Manscaped Performance Package 5.0 Ultra has everything you need to prepare that summer bod. Inside this package, you'll find the star of the show, the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. Their 5th generation trimmer features 2 interchangeable next-gen skin-safe blade heads, a standard one for taking a little off the top, and a new foil blade to go smooth wherever your heart desires. Now that you have the perfect haircut, use Manscaped's liquid formulations to keep the freshness even at the hottest summer barbecues. The Crop Soother Aftershave Lotion and Crop Preserver Anti-Chafe Ball Deodorant. Once they touch your sack, you'll never go back. Get 20% off plus free shipping with code THPN at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with code THPN at manscaped.com. It's Smooth Sack Summer, boys. Get on board or get left behind. What's up, and welcome to another episode of the Grind Line Podcast, usually to episode 279. I am your host, Greg. I'm here tonight with Ryan, and tonight we have a very special guest. We have head coach of the Grand Rapids Griffins, Dan Watson. Dan, thank you for joining us tonight. How are you doing?
No, I'm doing great, and thanks for having me on. Like I told you guys earlier, I listen to you guys and appreciate the coverage you provide. The Griffins fans and Walleye fans and Red Wings fans. So it's a pleasure to be on here.
Yeah, I also want to say happy Father's Day. Like, we
Yeah,
just
thank you.
passed. How was your Father's
Yeah,
Day?
awesome, awesome. Obviously, it's nice being at home, and we're able to have my wife's family over. Hung around the pool all day. It was kind of a
Oh,
relaxing day, but it was a nice day. Weather was perfect.
yeah, beautiful pool weather before it hits the mid 90s in Michigan here and everyone's just sweating to death.
Exactly. It's gonna hit Ohio the same way. It was a hot one today.
Awful. So we got Dan on to talk a little bit about the Griffins season, the prospects that are coming up. And Ryan had a question too while we're in here talking about it. But I just kind of want to kick it off with it was your first season with the Griffins. It didn't maybe go as well as everyone expected. It went really well for where we were last season. But just kind of what were your impressions on your first season, the group of guys, on how you what kind of approach you took to the first season coaching there?
Yeah, you know what? I enjoyed it. I really did. I thought, speaking about the group of guys, I thought we had a great group of guys. Good people, good teammates. The biggest thing at the start of the year was, we wanted to make play two goals that I always start with at the start of every year, no matter what team it is, and that's become a team as fast as we possibly can. Because usually you get off to a good start, things are rolling, and then make playoffs. And once you get that opportunity in the playoffs, then you can create different goals. But you can add goals throughout the year too. If you're close to a division, a conference, a league championship for the regular season, you can start adding those types of goals in too. But the first two are really important to me. I think we got off to a slow start in terms of wins, how we wanted to play, gelling together as a team, both on and off the ice. And it took time. It took time to get that going organically. It wasn't. We didn't want to force it on guys. Didn't want to force them, too much. It was more of let's make these friendships. Let's get the trust. Let's get the respect happening organically. Didn't want to force it. So, But once Christmas hit, I could feel it before Christmas. I could see in our play. Maybe the results weren't exactly what we wanted, but I think those 4 games heading into Texas, I started to see some really good things. And, now we need to do that more on a consistent level, consistent basis. I think everyone, I've talked about it at length after Christmas, we became a different team. Players became different players after Christmas. And I think it took those first couple months just to figure everybody out, figure out our whole new coaching staff, how things are going to be run, maybe the differences and changes from the year previous to this year and how I wanted things run and our staff wanted things run. So it wasn't smooth sailing off the start, let's put it that way. But once we got going, I felt we got into a good rhythm and certainly enjoyed the learning process, the learning curves, and the adversity that were thrown our way early on. And I think that helped us be a little bit stronger mentally, helped us build resiliency as everyone could see the last half of the year. We had a lot of third period comebacks, and
Yeah.
that doesn't happen by accident. And I do believe that, and I think our guys did a really good job of becoming a team, making playoffs, and making a good run at it.
Yeah, you mentioned that kind of slow lead up to December, and there were a couple stretches of that you strung together some losses, and that goes to like, was there like anytime you can pinpoint like, hey, this is the pivot point, like an inflection point, or was it just like you said, it almost mirrored the Red Wings situation from the previous year? You get a whole new staff, you bring in five, six, seven new guys. Is it just them all gelling together, or was there any point you can point to and say that is the switch that flipped to get the season on track?
Yeah, I think there was some games before the Texas series, right before Christmas, playing Toronto 4 times, the 2 games in Belleville. We got to, wasn't pretty game one in Belleville. Game two, real proud of our guys for the bounce back effort. But I think we could see how hard it is. Our younger players could see how hard it is. Maybe the experienced guys realize how much we need our younger guys in the lineup to get going as well. And then we talked a lot before we had that 4 game series against Texas. And I think as a staff, we talked that this could be really good or it could go really bad. Texas had our number there, and it went well. Again, the results weren't there, but I think the way we played. So I really look back and I look at kind of that series that we went to Toronto, that kind of week long trip, and then going down, having that 4 game stretch against Texas really turned our mindset around of how hard it's going to be and what we need to do and how we need to play to have success.
The AHL I feel has quite a bit more turnover than the NHL has. You're bringing up guys from maybe from the ECHL, you're sending guys off to the pros. You've got to make a lot of trades. You carry several goalies. How closely are you following the guys that are coming in? That may be a new crop of guys you have coming in the system to potentially make the Griffins squad next season.
Yeah, I think we follow along pretty close. We know probably who's expected to turn pro. Now it's waiting to see who they're going to sign. And again, that's sort of out of our control right now. But once they do, we obviously with video at our fingertips right now, and all the different types of software out there, we can get as much information we possibly can on these guys. So we know them pretty well, but we know their game. We know their personalities, make sure we talk to them, get to know them. Development camp's important. If there's any guys that have potential to be on the Griffins team next year or turning pro, um, we want to know them. We want to get to know them as quickly as we can and how they tick and what makes them work and what makes them operate. That's my job. And so I'm excited. I'm always excited when there's new players coming into the fold and see where they're going to fit within the lineup, see what they're going to fit within our team, and excited for the possibility of all the guys that could be coming back too. It makes it exciting for hopefully not the same start we had last year, maybe a quicker start to get us on the right foot. But yeah, we're always paying attention. We're always kept up to date with communication from Detroit of the potential players we're going to have, and then it's time for us to do our homework.
So not much of a summer vacation then.
No, no, and you know what though? It is nice. You do get some downtime. One of the big differences people ask me all the time, like in the ECHL, you're constantly recruiting. You're calling agents, you're calling players, you're getting character references, and now all those phone calls stop. But they're different. It's different work. It's hockey work. It's watching video. It's watching the Stanley Cup Finals and playoffs in a different way. The American League Finals right now going on, and the semifinals. The conference championships. We're looking at that in a different way, and so it's fun, and that's the best part of the job. Is you got to get up and you got to enjoy it. You got to want to learn.
Do you ever get your way and say kind of like, "Hey, I want that guy on my team next year." You go to Steve and say, "Steve, send him over. Like we want him in Grand Rapids."
No, I think it's types of players, and there's obviously certain types of players that they like. There's certain types of players I like. And there's commonality between that though. Everyone knows the type of players, the type of team. You need a blend. You need a mix. You can't have all one type of player. And so as the team's being put together, whether that's with prospects, with experienced players, veteran type guys, then you got to start filling in those holes, and that's a really tough job. You're trying to balance how much ice time they're going to get and where they're going to play, and what type of role they're going to play. And so, Sean Horkoff and Steve, they do a great job they did a really good job last year of providing us a team that allowed us to have the success we did.
Yeah, I think Ryan had a question about kind of the development path.
Yeah, so kind of piggyback on that. I mean, is there a difference in the guys that you're seeing coming in, say that are coming out straight from the CHL or the NCAA or even from Europe, for instance?
Yeah, I think you know what from the CHL, they play a very similar schedule. You know, whether it's 3-3s, whether it's back to backs, you know, some of those midweek games at times. The NCAA guys are playing 40-ish games, give or take a few here and there if they make the final tournament or not. And they're basically playing Friday, Saturday, same team every time. So some of the differences are that some of the similarities for the NCAA guys, they typically play the same team back to back, and we do that a lot in Grand Rapids, whether it's Texas coming in, Manitoba, Iowa. So we get those back to backs. So they know what they're up against every single time, which I like. You know, I think at times you get a little bit more mature player from the NCAA route. They're a little bit older at times. You know, I know the routines and how they operate. They've got a strict schedule. They have schooling, they've got their workouts, they've got their hockey, so they're already used to that. The biggest thing with those young guys is when they turn pro, you know, we practice at 11. They do a workout either before or after. It's what do they do with the rest of their day? And you don't want them just going home and laying on the couch the rest of the day playing video games all day. They've got to find things to do, and that's the biggest thing I think for these young guys coming out is number one, some of these guys haven't lived on their own, especially the CHL guys. They've lived with billets. You know, a lot of these billets help them out, and whether they cook for them, whether they do a lot of things for them. They help them out, and they go into these CHL teams as young men. I'd say 16, 17 years old, and now they're 19, 20 years old. It's a big chunk of their life, an important part of their life, and now they got to figure out how to do all that stuff on their own. And so I think that first month and a half, they're really trying to figure out they've got to go get an apartment. There's a lot of stuff happening outside of hockey that they have to focus on. And you want to try and get them to put that away when they walk through the doors of the locker room, but that is hard to do. Where the NCAA guys, whether they've lived in a house or they've had some roommates before, they've probably had to cook on their own unless you're going to eat the meal at the cafeteria every single day. But you know what they do? They come out a little bit more mature on the outside of the rink type aspects. And then European guys, I think it's a well documented and known fact. It's the smaller ice. It's how things happen a little bit quicker. They've got to really make that adjustment on the ice versus off the ice. Yes, it's a different culture coming to North America, but these guys seem to find a way to figure out. A lot of them come over and they're good cooks already for some reason. I don't know what they're doing over there, but we had a lot of young guys cooking some good food, and especially European guys. So they're all different for sure. There's definitely differences. There are some similarities when they turn pro, but I think the biggest thing is just getting acclimated and used to things that happen off the ice, which I think is a big part of it.
Yeah, the cooking piece makes me kind of chuckle because you see the videos that the Wings will put out for training camp up in Traverse City and all the cooking classes they have everybody going through. So you got to think that that's like a mind blowing moment for some of those younger guys.
You're right. Yeah, you got to make sure the chicken's not pink, guys, before you eat it. We had going back a few years in Toledo. There, we had a couple guys that all of a sudden a game on Friday, Saturday night, and they were showing up and food poisoning. Well, what'd you guys have? We cooked chicken. Well, was it pink on the inside? Well, yeah, it was fine though. It tasted good. I'm like, yeah, you got to make sure that's done. So,
Can't
it's
have
important.
medium rare chicken.
No, that's important. And that's why the Red Wings do a great job at development camp. They're trying to open their eyes to new things that are going to be hitting them hard and coming their way quickly as they turn pro.
So you mentioned the training with the NCAA guys. Do you think that the way over the last maybe even just 5 to 10 years that the NCAA is going with the competitive nature and how that seems to be growing at a high rate, do you think it's passing a league like the CHL and other junior level hockey for the way they're putting an emphasis on training in the facilities? Like you see Penn State, for instance, and the money that they've put into their a brand new program essentially, and it's amazing, top tier. Like it's could argue better than some minor league teams. Like it's impressive.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know all the ins and out of that. I haven't been around that type of thing in a long time. And for me, I mean, you see the money they have building those programs and some of the resources that they have and the facilities they have. You mentioned some are probably better than some of the NHL teams right now. I don't know. You know, you look at North Dakota and you look at the locker room tour. If you go online, you look at all the stuff that they have, and it's unbelievable to see the resources they have. But I think the elite CHL players are still really good hockey players. They're getting drafted, they're playing the NHL right away at 18 years old. And to me, it's if you're a good hockey player, you're going to found no matter where you're at, whatever route you take, someone's going to see you. There's so many scouts out there, and as long as those guys are doing their jobs, they're going to find you. And and again, it's everyone's different. Everyone's got a different way to go, and one kid might not be suited for the CHL, but they're going to excel in the NCAA, and same then vice versa. So, again, it's not advice, but it's my thinking. If you're a good hockey player, you're going to be found, and just make sure you're doing a good job where you're playing.
Yeah, I think it's to your point where you see a lot of guys from the CHL who do get drafted and then they do go to the NCAA, and maybe it is to learn some of those life skills. They go, like you said, man, I've never cooked before. I've never lived by myself. So maybe it is a little easier for them to go there and play hockey and learn how to play. So you learn and play at a lower level before you jump right into like the AHL from the CHL and then still have to learn how to like live life like an adult at the same time. That's got to be like super stressful.
It is, it is. I think that's part of the maturing process for these young guys, and um, we saw it firsthand this year. And the guys that struggle with it is just is part of life they hadn't had to do before, and so there's that balance of getting to the rink and trying to put all that stuff behind you, and make sure you're focused on your job. We need you to focus on your job and show up to at the arena, whether it's to work out, whether it's to get on the ice, whether it's skills and skating coaches. You want to make sure that nothing off the ice is hindering your mind. And so, again, that first month for these young kids, it's hard. It's hard. They're trying to, especially last year. It's a whole new staff. They're learning a whole new city. They're coming in learning, whole new systems. All that type of stuff goes into it. Now they go home and it's what am I gonna have for dinner? Do I have to go to the grocery store? It's do I need to get an oil change? Yeah, all these little things that we probably take for granted being adults now. These young guys are just learning how to do. Plus, they're also starting their pro career. So there's a lot on them mentally, a lot on them physically, and that's the way they handle it. But our guys handled it great this year.
I think that's something we kind of take for granted as a fan too. We see what they're doing on the ice and how they're like when things are posted on social media, for instance, but we don't really take into account how much is going on in the background, like to what you just mentioned.
Yeah, yeah, that's something we talk about when they get there. And try to block out that noise, or get those things taken care of before you have to. You've got all day. By the time you leave the rink and go home, you've got a lot of time to do some things. So get it done. Again, it's things that the fans don't get to see. It's behind the closed door things, unless you get to know them personally or on a personal level, or guys are active on social media and show you every little thing that they do. That's really the only way to find out. So there's a lot put on them early. There's a lot. And again, we don't want to overload them with information, but at the same time, you've got to make them aware of all these situations that could come up again at the arena and away from the rink. So uh, it's how they handle it, how they own it. Again, our guys did a really good job with that, and we had experienced guys to help them, to walk them through it. Here's what Grand Rapids is all about. Here are the great places to go and eat. Here are the grocery stores you want to go to. And we had older guys invite the younger guys out for dinner. I think that's real important, or have them over for dinner. I think it's great. I think it's part of the becoming a team process, and there's a lot of help that our experienced guys provide these young guys this year.
So to talk about some of the younger guys, McKean's recently just ranked the Detroit Red Wings prospect pool number one in the NHL. So you will have a huge influx of talent making its way through the system. One of the guys at the top of the list is Nate Danielson. I'm sure you've watched tons of tape on him. He's a guy that should be on the team next season. If he doesn't make Detroit, he'll be in Grand Rapids. What do you see in him? What kind of value do you think he can bring to the team as kind of what's shaping up to hopefully be a top six NHL center eventually?
Yeah, I think with Nate, and when it was a pleasure to be around him the couple weeks he was there at the end, and we threw him right into the fire. We didn't. He literally had a practice, a morning skate, and he was right into a game, and so to put that type of pressure on a young prospect, he handled it extremely well. He's very mature. He plays a 200-foot game. He's very responsible, reliable. I'm sure that first game, we gave him all the systems at once, and I'm sure it was a lot to handle. But again, he handled that pressure extremely well. I think that's what impressed me the most. It's just his the way he thinks the game, the way he sees the game, the support that provides with without the puck. Again, he is going to be a really, really good hockey player. There's no doubt about it. Everybody can see it. Now it's just gaining that strength. He's a young kid, still learning his way, but he needs to get some strength, and he's going to be a really good hockey player. I liked him in the circle, the face-off dot. He was on the power play right away because he can do that, and I think he's going to be a really, really good prospect.
I think he was pretty unmatched in the preseason last year in Detroit. In the faceoff dot, he won majority of his faceoffs. But I think the more we watch him, the more he looks like he's turning into a Dylan Larkin style player. Very high hockey IQ. He's got wheels. He makes smart plays, which is really exciting for us because we're saying we need a 2C, and this is a guy that can come in. If not him, then Marco. And it's really good to have that center depth. But Nate's been super impressive to us.
Yeah, it is. You talk about center depth, and you look at Marco, you look at Nate, you look at Amadeus Lombardi. I mean, there's three young centermen right there that, if they all have great summers, can make an impact for us next year. And again, a couple of those guys will be knocking on the door and trying to make the Red Wings. There's no doubt about it. I give these guys a ton of credit for how they come in to training camp in shape. They want to learn. That's the biggest thing for me is these young guys want to learn. They're hungry for it. We're kicking these guys off the ice at times, saying, "Hey, like, you need to rest. We have games coming up. We have 3 games this week. Hey, get off the ice. You've done enough right now." And so these guys are all hungry for knowledge, and that's all you can ask these young guys is if they want to get better. We can provide all the resources. We are going to give them the information to get better, but then they've got to take ownership of it. And these three guys are certainly doing that.
That's what we need. We need some hungry guys. And I think there's none more hungrier than a guy you've been probably the closest with following him from Toledo to Grand Rapids is Sebastian Cossa. I don't think we can explain the level of excited we are for Sebastian Cossa, not just his play, but it seems like the attitude that he brings to the game and the attitude he
Mhm.
brings to the team. It seems like he likes to disturb a little bit. But what has it been like following the development path of Sebastian Cossa, and where do you see him going?
Yeah, I think, from the first time we had him in Toledo, we've already talked about it at length, but just that maturing off the ice and understanding what you have to do away from the arena. Those first couple months were a little bit rocky for him in Toledo. And now his performance was fine. We were winning hockey games with him still in the net, but after Christmas again, he took off that first year. He was very solid, won us a ton of hockey games. You could see the progression on the ice, but you could see the progression off the ice. And then this year, getting him again, it's that expectation of how is he going to get better? What is he going to do to get better? And now it became his off ice preparation for practices, his off ice preparation for games. He had to put the work in, and he had to find a routine that worked, and then he had to stick with it. Again, that's part of that learning process and learning curve, and part of his development was off the ice, and you can see it translate on the ice. And again, we had Phillips there in Toledo for a majority of the time last year in Toledo. And then this year, Rope Koistinen comes over from Finland, our goalie coach. Did a really, really good job with Sebastian. I think they are able to stay on that same level. I think Sebastian, they created a really good bond, a respectful bond, where there was some honesty. Rope could be very honest with him how his game was, where he needed to improve, and Sebastian took that to heart and worked on it in practice. And that's one thing I'd say about Coase is he's a worker, and he's going to try and find ways to continue to get better this summer. And so I'm excited to see where he goes. It's all on him now. There's a path there. It's right there for him. As long as he wants to continue to get better, which I believe he does and will, the future's right there for him. And I can't predict. I'm not a predictor. All I know is that we're going to do everything we possibly can to turn him into an NHL goaltender. That's my job. That's Rope's job. That's our staff's job. And we hope he gets there. I love the kid to death. He's a worker, like I said, and you mentioned it, his personality, his character inside the locker room is awesome. The guys love him. He's got that little bit of swagger, which I think goalies need to have. And he's starting to learn how to use that in the right way too.
Yeah, and when he does graduate, it looks like you're not going to have any shortage of talented goalies with Trey Augustine coming up through Michigan State now.
Yeah, no, they, certainly I've watched him a little bit here, and seems like he's a big game goalie. coaches love that. That's for sure. You want to make sure when the spotlight's on them and times are tough and there's big games ahead, that your goalies have to be one of your top players, your best players. And it seems like he's having the ability to do that at a young age.
So after spending a couple seasons with Newsy in Toledo, how much communication is there now that he's the head coach of the Red Wings between you guys about certain players during the season? Are you passing notes back and forth saying, hey, this guy probably should get a look, or here's how this guy is progressing if you need to fill in?
Yeah, we talk quite often. Obviously, I think we're beyond the coach to coach talk at times. We're friends, we're good friends, but we do talk a lot about our business, our jobs. He checks in after the weekends. How are things going? He does check in and watch the games as well, much like I do with the Wings. And yeah, he wants to know about certain players. He's asking about certain players and what qualities they could bring to their team, what they still need to work on. Always wants to know information, and that's all we can do is provide information to each other so we can help each other out. And then after that, it becomes a family talk and probably a few chirps here and there, getting on each other a little bit. But that's the fun part of having a friend and having that close bond and that close friendship. We can have the serious talks for sure, and then we can have our light talks again regarding family. But always love the communication. I think it's important to have that. I think it's important to have that coach to management, and then NHL coach, American League coach, and American League coach, ECHL coach. Just making sure everything's on the right path, everything's on the right track, and checking in on players to make sure that they're doing the right things to be prepared when they get called up. Either way, from Toledo to Grand Rapids or Grand Rapids to Detroit, we want them prepared and ready so they can make an impact.
So now we're going to do our job and try and get some of that same information. You've got guys like
Perfect.
Marco Kasper, you've got Carter Mazur, you got Albert Johansson, Jonathan Berggren. What
Mhm.
prospects have made a strong push, develop their game that are maybe knocking on the door for the NHL? I think Mazur was one of the big ones for us last season. I think if he wouldn't have gotten hurt, he might have had a shot because I think he's a very versatile player and can play up and down the lineup and wouldn't hurt his development. But who do you really see that is just kind of progressing so well that they might have a shot?
Yeah, you know what? I think all the names you mentioned, they do have good shots, and it's up to them. They've got to put the work in. They all go home with development plans for the summertime, skills and skating and strength. But these guys made big strides throughout the season. There's no doubt from day one to the final day we lost out to Milwaukee in Game 5, they've come a long way, and I think that's a testament to them. I think that's them putting the work in. Again, Amadeus Lombardi, I thought he made a huge stride and big jump this year. Will he get NHL games? I don't know that. Again, that's not my decision. All I can do is try to help him. Willie Wallinder, again, another guy who in the playoffs, I thought he had a great playoff. He was physical at the right times. He competed at the right times. And I think that's what we're looking for as a staff. Who are the guys competing? Who are the guys that are willing to do some of the dirty work, go to the net fronts, go to the corners and battle? And if you don't do that, what else can you do? Are you a skater? Are you a playmaker? Are you a shooter? Elmer Soderblom at times, and it's unfortunate. The illness that he had for that full month, it was crazy because he was trending in that top six, playing really well, physical. He's got the body and the size to do it. And so some of these guys, they had really good finishes to their seasons. I love the fact that we were able to make playoffs, go through a couple rounds. They could see how hard it is. So now they have sort of a template to work on in the summertime to come back and push for ice time once the regular season comes. All these guys, I'm sure, will get games exhibition wise, and that's gonna be their time to show. And then it'll be up to management to see who's going to make the team, who's going to maybe be a call up, a potential call up, and then again, what do these guys need to work on so they can get there? And we have so many prospects and so many young guys that played this year that got better that it's hard to predict where they're going to be because some guys early on in the year are like, oh, where's this guy going to fall come Christmas time? Where is he going to be at the end of the year? And I think almost all of them surpassed where we felt they would be. And again, that's a testament to my staff, our assistant coaches for putting in the work and effort that they did, the skills and skating coaches, and then the players themselves. They did a lot of work, a lot of good work, a lot of hard work, and it wasn't easy, but they owned it, and they've set the table now. And they've kind of raised the bars and raised the standards that They all want to be NHL players. This is the path you got to take to get there. Go do it.
Yeah, like we said, it was probably not the result we wanted at the beginning of the season, but it was a great season nonetheless. We saw a lot of development in guys, and you were just extremely important piece in getting them there. It's been amazing talking to you, Dan. I want to thank you again for coming on the show to just give us a little peek into the Griffins and how it works and how that process goes going forward.
No, appreciate it anytime. Love to be a guest on once again. And thanks for once again, thanks for the coverage, guys.
Yeah.
Certainly appreciate it from our side of it. All the work you guys put in. I know it's not easy, but certainly appreciate you guys. Doing your podcast and getting information to the fans and myself.
Yeah, and we'll make sure to we'll give you a shout when we go to a game in Grand Rapids next season.
Perfect. Sounds good. Sounds good.
Again, thanks Dan for joining us.
Yeah,
All right. Take care,
appreciate it.
guys.
Seriously.
All right. Take care.
We're this close to crowning the Stanley Cup champion, and with the action heating up on the ice, it's even hotter at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. New to DraftKings, listen up. New customers can get a no sweat bet up to $1,500. Just deposit at least $5 and you'll get a bonus bet back equal to your first bet if it doesn't hit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get a no sweat bet up to $1,500 if your first bet doesn't hit. Only on DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or in West Virginia, www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPENY or text HOPENY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction, void in Ontario. One no sweat bet per new customer issued as one bonus bet based on amount of initial losing bet. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.co/ice for eligibility, wagering, and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. Copyright NHL 2024, all rights reserved. And that was Grand Rapids Griffins coach Dan Watson. What a great opportunity to get an interview like that, especially in the off season when you can kind of just reflect on what happened. And like he said, like they realized like, hey, not a great beginning of the season, but it took them a while to gel and get together and work with other guys in order to just get that group of coaches and new players to kind of push through.
And we kind of said the same thing even with Detroit. Like going back to last year and then into this season, with the amount of just turnover on the roster, you can kind of see that point at both ends of it. But it was a really, really good conversation. I'm glad that we weren't getting catfished because we thought
Yeah,
that
I was sweating,
turns out it was
man.
just a time mix up, which is fantastic.
I was sweating. I'm like, man, well, it
I
looks
was like,
pretty
Greg, what did you
legitimate.
do to us?
And he's been following us on Twitter for a while, and it looks pretty legitimate. So I think I'll reach out. And yeah, it was legit, which was great, and it was a
Yeah, it was.
fantastic conversation. It's good to learn that he's listened to us for a while.
Yeah, I
One of
don't
the
know if it's
interesting
good, but
things, it's something.
yeah.
One of the interesting things that I found too was we went into the whole discussion about the NCAA and the CHL. And I did not think about the fact that the NCAA players, you're living in the dorms. You're out there like chilling with
Yeah.
your friends and you're
You
cooking
have
and
a
you're going out
lot
to
of
dinner.
distractions.
But you're learning to be an adult at the same time. Like you're
Yeah,
living
kinda.
on your own for the most part. But when you're, like he said, with a billet family, a lot of that stuff is done for you. And then
Mhm.
you go right from being a 16 or 17-year-old, 18-year-old who was just drafted, living
Yeah.
with a family who's done everything for you, to going and playing in the AHL where, yeah, now you've got to find an apartment. Now you've got to learn how to cook. All at the same time while learning to adapt to the AHL. I can understand now why a lot of the CHL players are taking time to go to college, if not just for the education, but to also learn life skills at the same time.
Mhm. I mean, it's a double-edged sword, college, and I can be a prime example of how quickly things can turn south when you're 18 years old on your own for the first time,
Oh, how the
and
turntables.
and surrounded by many different things. Also, the way I'll put it. But no, it's a testament to what these guys have to go through at a young age, whether you're 16 moving into billet, 18 moving into a dorm for the first time on your own, or just coming from Europe as he touched down with some of these guys and making the trek across the ocean and being boom hit with a brand new culture. But it is kind of funny he said most of the foreign guys are actually good cooks already. So that says a lot about how great we are at not cooking.
Yeah, I think that's a big family thing overseas is like
Yeah.
cooking with your family or learning with your family how to cook. But yeah, I mean, our guys cook McDonald's, right? They can do that.
Well, apparently
So
our guys can't cook chicken, so that tells you a lot right there.
yeah, guys, just a tool, a quick tip. Chicken can't be
165
pink.
internal temperature.
Yeah,
Huh.
unless you're sous videing it. But yeah, 165. Cook it to 165 and make sure it is not pink in the center. If you bite your chicken and it's chewy, it's not done. So cook your chicken all the way. Don't get food poisoning. The other thing that I thought was interesting is we mentioned some of the main guys like Kasper, Mazur, and Johansson. A name that was brought up multiple times, Amadeus Lombardi.
Yes.
How Amos had a good development path, come a far away from playing with Flint. Talked about William Wallinder and how, and we had talked about Wallinder before, and how I think that it was Dan Cleary who said that Wallinder's just like dedication to the game and seriousness for learning and adapting to new stuff. And I think Dan kind of echoed it there that he's adaptable. He's come a long way in learning. He'll go to the net, he'll go to the corners, dig out. Same with Elmer Soderblom, who that's one thing who we had constantly said Elmer's got to be more consistent. He's got to use his size to his advantage. He's got to
But
learn how
he's
to hit
also
people.
very sick.
Yeah, but he was sick and that derailed his development. But he said that Soderblom made up for it. And he
Mhm.
was he was going in that direction until the sickness happened too. So I think it was really good to hear about guys who we are necessarily not thinking of for next year, but are also having a really positive impact in our impressing the coach with their development path.
I think it also speaks to, I mean, you called out the McKeans having Detroit with the number one prospect pool. It also speaks to that pretty heavily. No?
Yeah, I think it adds into it. I mean, we're like we're not the only people watching them. It's the scouts and the people that are doing
Yeah.
the draft profiles are watching them too. And that's something where you a lot of pools you hear about three, four, five different guys if you've got a really good pool. Maybe you hear about two, three guys if you've got a decent pool. But then you've got to look at that depth. And for Elmer, who was a late round pick, he was a late round pick, but if he can hit and make it and play legitimate NHL games past the season that he did play, like that's big wins. And that is part of the
Mhm.
things that will elevate your prospect ranking, even if he doesn't break the top 10 prospects. Maybe he's 11, maybe he's 12, and that still counts toward your pool.
Well, yeah, I mean, we've already seen what he can do as a rookie without having that true experience at the NHL and AHL level. So if he can continue to grow as what how Watson just kind of laid it out there for us, your depth is getting shored up. It means it's going to be a cheaper hit to your cap as you're looking into the future. And that's just how you build long-term success is with guys like that that may not be your top 10 prospect pool. That's fine. But can they come out and be impactful in ways that are going to help you win games? And we've seen with when Soderblom was on the ice, even though it was a small sample size, he could be impactful. Now, if he's can put that all together and grow off it, that's even better.
Now, do we get Newsy on and start a coach feud? Is that
Oh
our
boy.
next step, right?
Yeah, if we can pull that one off, then yeah, good luck.
Yeah, I thought it was a really good discussion. I learned a lot from it,
Mhm.
especially about Sebastian Cossa and how he's like it reflects what we've seen. We've seen the development in him learn as he goes, and then end really really strong.
Yeah.
It's good that he brings the attitude. Like the attitude is respected among goalies, and it brings to the game. But also that the apparently there's just a lot of respect for the goaltending coach in Grand Rapids, which I wonder if that helped Ville Husso when he had his rehab games down there because they do have a Finnish goaltending coach.
He could have. I mean, he what didn't he have a shutout real quick down there? Not saying that's not because of what we know that he can bring as an NHL level goaltender, but you know that if you have a good relationship with particular coaches in that instance, maybe that's what helps put you over the edge and getting back to where you need to. Now, I say all that just praying and hoping that Huso comes into the season healthy because well, we sort of need it.
Yeah, and then another goalie option in Detroit would be nice. But Ryan, I think that's where we're going to wrap it up for tonight. I want to get your final thoughts before we sign off. We'll be back next week. We've got a couple feelers out there. We might have another interview next week. But give me your final thoughts before we sign off.
No, final thoughts. Semester is finally over. I can start being a normal person on the show again. So, yay for that. Only two more semesters to go, and then I can finally be rid of this hell of school. But other than that, felt good to be on. Glad we had a great conversation. It was a fun one to get back into. Yeah, we're coming up on the draft. We are 11 days away. Wow, damn.
Yeah, right.
Oh, this summer's gone too fast. Softball's taken over everything. But yeah, already ran 33.
Yeah, you can follow me online at Bringing the Wing. You can follow the Grindline Podcast online at Grindline Pod. At least I will be at the draft party. I'm not sure about you, but at least I will be there. Just
The
remember, you
smoker
need to
will be
buy
fired
tickets.
up in the background. So yeah.
Okay, Ryan won't be there, but tickets are $5. You need to get a ticket, or else they will not let you in. So get a ticket for the draft party. It is $5. Like I said, I can check
Are they
with
usually
people.
charged?
No,
That's
nope.
the,
First
yeah.
year. Yep, first year they've charged.
Is that like getting you parking?
Parking was always free before.
I
You could
am.
park in the garage before it was park in the garage, walk on over.
That's what I
So,
thought.
yep. Yeah, I'm gonna have to double check and see if parking is free, but I should be there. Yeah, hopefully it's not 100 million degrees, but I should be there. You can also check out Vintage Detroit for our exclusive T-shirt collection. It's up there. They're still there. I'm
They're comfy.
actively trying to come up with more. So
Vintage shirts are extremely comfortable.
they are so comfortable. I wear my Mo with the Flow shirt all the time. But yeah, go check them out. Vintage Detroit collection. I think you click on the Keep It Local tab. Our collection is right under there. It is also the only place you should get your Detroit jerseys from and worked on. We also give a shout out to the Hockey Podcast Network and thank them for hosting us and spreading us around, and to our YouTube channel. Go to our YouTube channel, sub to us, turn on the notifications. You'll get notified every time an episode like this goes live, and you can see our dumb faces talk about fun hockey stuff. But that is going to do it for us tonight. So for Ryan, I am Greg. You stay classy, Hockey Town.